Welcome back to All Things Creepy. I'm your host, Micah James, and this week I am covering a topic that I covered, I believe, twice my first go around. So if you were with me that first time around, a lot of this information is going to sound very familiar, but I am covering the urban legend of Bloody Mary and going down the route of who she could have been. We are going to start with how to play and kind of like a little bit of the history of where the game itself came from. And something I do kind of want to put a little disclaimer on. The urban legend, I'm going to be going off mostly what I heard growing up. There are other versions that people probably heard even within the same area, never mind all over the world. So if this doesn't sound familiar, you probably have your own version. But basically, the way you go about playing this game is you have to go into a dark bathroom with the door closed and chant Bloody Mary 13 times in the mirror. Then, after you're finished with the chant, she is supposed to appear with a bloody face. In other versions, she apparently scratches your face. She'll cause other bodily damages. Sometimes she will grant you a wish with the understanding that you're going to do something for her in return. Other similarities is just that you need a candle, a bathroom, and the lights off. And usually upon completion, you either see a bloodied woman named Mary or Kathy or Agnes or whatever, or you see a demon. Other names that she is known by are Bloody Bones, Hell Mary, Mary Worth, Mary Worthington, Mary Wales, Mary Johnson, Mary Lou, Mary Jane, Sally, Kathy, Agnes, Blag Agnes, Aggie, and Madame Savarte, I believe is how you pronounce it. Other chants that I did hear have been Bloody Mary, I have your baby, or Mary Worth, I have your baby, because one of the legends states that this is the spirit of a woman who did lose her baby. As far as the other names go, I personally couldn't find the chants that would go with her name. The other variations of the chants that I have found have been some sort of variation of Bloody Mary, I have your baby, or chanting that name X amount of times. Now, as far as where the game could have started, the leading theory seems to state that it started in the late 19th or early 20th centuries with this divinity ritual. A young woman would walk up a dimly lit staircase backwards while holding a candle and a mirror, one of those hand mirrors. And as they walked, they were supposed to see the face of their future husband. If they didn't, then they were supposed to see a skull or the Grim Reaper. In that case, that meant that they were going to die before they got married. But again, we don't know exactly who the original Bloody Mary was. Leading theories seem to be a witch named Mary, Mary the First of England, Mary Queen of Scots, a young girl who died of an illness, or Elizabeth Bathory. So we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into these women. So the first one was potentially a witch named Mary. I couldn't find a lot of information on her, but at least not one to do with Bloody Mary. But this one, with this woman, apparently she practiced black magic. On top of that, she just wasn't very well liked, so people continued to accuse her of being a witch. She was then hanged and buried on her property. There was one source where, if I can find it again, I will link it in the show notes, but there was one source that said that she was beat up, which, kind of leads to the Bloody Mary effect. In another source, I also read that she wasn't necessarily practicing magic at all. She just had a different religion than the other townsfolk, and therefore it was considered black magic. Next, We have Mary the First of England. Mary the First was Mary Tudor, and she was the daughter of Henry VIII, the very same one who killed all of his wives for not giving him sons. Mary ended up ruling for 5 years from 1553 to 1558, and in those 5 years, she did a shit ton of damage. If you know anything about English history or just history about England, you know that there were a lot of tensions between the Protestants and the Catholics. Mary was a very devout Catholic. She was so devout to her religion that she apparently ordered 280 Protestants to be burned at the stake. Now, the reason why I say supposedly is because while there is evidence that life for the Protestants did get worse under Mary, I couldn't find a lot of evidence to state that Mary actually ordered any deaths, really. But that being said, that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just couldn't find a lot of information on that. She did end up passing away at the age of 42 from either uterine cancer, ovarian cysts, or influenza. Her half-sister Elizabeth ended up claiming the throne upon the death, and Elizabeth was Protestant, so as far as the Protestants go, life kind of started becoming a little less violent. Going down the route that Mary went down the route of ordering that many deaths, 280 deaths, it makes sense that she might be Bloody Mary. Mary, Queen of Scots. If there's anyone who is the least likely to be Bloody Mary, it would be Mary, Queen of Scots, just because there isn't a lot to support the idea that she was or is the infamous Bloody Mary. She was known to be a vain queen, but she didn't necessarily kill anybody. There is a rumor that she had a hand in murdering her husband because he kind of died suspiciously. As far as her being vain, after her death, there happened to be rumors that she used blood to kind of keep her beauty. But again, with that one specifically, there's not a lot of evidence to back that up. As far as the young woman named Mary, this one could very much be an urban legend. It very much toes that line. The story revolves around a young woman named Mary who likely had cataplexy. Cataplexy, I'll call it a syndrome that leads people to fall asleep, and once they fall asleep, it's very hard to find a pulse, and the individual's breathing it has slowed. And many people who suffer from narcolepsy tend to also suffer from cataplexy. Mary did live in a time where they had these bells that were linked to inside the coffins to let anybody know that the person inside the coffin was still alive. When Mary had her episode, they thought that she had died, so the only natural next step to them was to bury her. They did live in a time where being buried alive was fairly common, so they had these bells that the person could ring if they were buried alive. So when she woke up, she ended up ringing the bell, but nobody was there to dig her up, and she did end up dying because she was buried alive. There are a lot of urban legends very similar to this where someone will have a dream oh, I had a dream that my family member wasn't actually dead, and they take out the coffin and they see that the person was trying to scratch their way out. And our final suspect for today is Elizabeth Bathory. This woman deserves an episode all to herself because there's just so much information about her. But I'll try to give you the basics. And she was a Hungarian countess who lived from 1560 to 1615. In 1610, 5 years before her death, she was accused of murdering a minimum of 60 victims in her castle. She supposedly killed female servants as well as minor noblewomen who came to her for training and education. She would kill a lot of the younger ones, especially if she suspected that they were virgins. And with the blood, she would bathe in it to supposedly capture her youth. These rumors, however, did come 100 years after her death, so it's very hard to verify if any of these rumors were true. If I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, she, much like Mary, Queen of Scots, she was kind of vain. So for these rumors to come about, it's not very hard to imagine where her bathing in blood to capture her youth, it's not hard to see where that would have came from. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. But again, I am going to do an episode on her because there's just so much about her life, and you can really make the case for or against her actually killing 600 victims. There are many other theories, as I've mentioned, but I could find even less information about those than others. But I'll kind of leave it up to you guys. Who do you think Bloody Mary was? Could it be someone that I didn't even mention? Because, like I said, there are other theories out there. And have you played it? This is a shorter episode, so I'm going to kind of go into like my experience with the game itself as well. But I did play it as a kid. I remember the first time I played it, I think I was at a friend's house. We were having a party, probably a birthday party, and we go into her bathroom and we're chanting Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, you know? And I remember we all got like super freaked out, so we didn't do it. Or we kind of like bailed like halfway through it and nothing happened. And then during my 13th birthday, my parents rented out this local like dance hall sort of thing. And we ended up trying it. And this like little hall has been in my community for like 100 years or something like that, for a long ass time. And it looks very haunted. So we're like, let's try this out again. I ended up bailing because I got too freaked, but there were a few who did complete the ritual, and they said that they saw something in the mirror. I looked into it myself, and it seems like there is a logical explanation for if you did see something, if you ever played it. Apparently, if you're in a dark room for long enough and you're looking at a mirror or anything reflective, your brain does end up playing tricks on you, and it makes it look like there is something that isn't your face in the mirror. It warps your own face. So it's not Bloody Mary that you see, it's your own face just warped by your brain. Yeah, so that is Bloody Mary. I am totally willing to do a part 2 if there are enough versions that warrants a part 2 to this episode. With that being said, I will see you guys next time, and hopefully with kind of a longer episode to make up for this short one. You can follow me on Instagram at allthingscreepypod, on Twitter at thingscreepypod, on Tumblr at allthingscreepypod, or you can email me at allthingscreepypod@gmail.com. All of that will be in the show notes. And again, please support my Patreon. And please support my Patreon because I am going to start uploading episodes early, like as soon as I finish editing them. And so you get early access and all that. So please consider helping me out. I will see you guys next time.